A little louder?
85.
Well, if you're gonna sell out, don't sell out for cheap.
I know, exactly.
You good? I got it. I'll do my job.
I got it.
Got an email from John, said no masks, no underwear. Good. Yeah. What's our-
I'm sorry, who did you get this email from?
Welcome, and thank you for choosing
I don't recall the underwear, though. My criminal friend.
You are the host. Press or please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash.
He's coming.
Thank you. You are the only participant in the conference.
Did I take your spot, Andy?
What's that?
Did I take your spot?
No, very well. I don't have a spot actually.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Deb. Gentlemen, how are you?
Yeah,
It's a Monday.
Yes, indeed.
you guys are all on. Look at that.
Are we all in there?
Well, I think, yeah, it's, I think you're safe.
I'm fine.
Oh, look at that.
Who's like,
Listen.
Everybody can be seen now. Hey, come on, water. Let's go.
we're saving on electric bills.
We should help mine out.
Yeah. By delaying payment.
That doesn't help.
I would rather have help with my water bill than my electric.
That you can delay payment as well.
That doesn't help, that's called a delay. I'm looking for forgiveness.
George, I got a thing about, I want to bring up about food trucks. Should that be like a new old business or?
Depends, the food trucks can be temporary, like for a
Yeah,
summer
yeah.
change, or they're gonna be a permanent thing.
Well,
Because if it was temporary, I would say during the COVID-19, but if it's gonna be like a year after year, I'd say older new business.
well, I guess what I'm getting at is whether the current position that we have them designated isn't really gonna go well this year, given all the construction going on. So thinking of moving the location.
Then you might wanna, let's do it during the COVID-19, because that's a whole list of things that are gonna go with the planning commission. So, but your choice, COVID-19
Well,
or,
I'm just gonna.
it doesn't really matter either way.
Fun to bring it up because it's a spot.
Either way, it'll have to go to the planning commission, so it doesn't matter which one you put on. Probably would be, but
Denise and I do it for 200 miles.
Make sure I can make the meeting. Yeah, so we're having to do cheese curds and wings and nachos all have on. So it's pretty, it's kind of fun.
If it gets to where, you know.
Now you're.
Well, they sit on the deck,
Filling.
sit on the deck, put on all sorts of great work here. We'll find nachos and we for that. Now we'll have nachos. But
I usually.
yeah, it's been a while since I've sat at the bar and park out for a long time. We're taking the whole bar.
City's
So
love,
it's impossible for that.
police,
Yeah.
city manager.
So I came up. So nachos.
We'll have to get the list for you.
So
They can fly away.
I
You
know.
much fun you have.
I'm gonna, like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
that's fine.
I'm behind.
You decide who the rest.
I'm just
I don't think it's very personal.
Yeah.
We all just think like anyway for
That's
that.
one of the meetings I actually quite enjoy.
Are we all set up? Vibes up here, or we all good? It's a Monday.
Jim, we cover everything, it's a fashion statement.
It's just like everybody know we have.
Exactly.
Good.
That's half the battle.
Insurance company can cough up all that money.
Yeah, but it's part of it.
Hey, Matt, when we start, I'm just gonna go over the rules, because we probably had a bunch of new people.
You bet.
Kathy Breitner.
Kathy who? Brittenard.
Just, then we're gonna.
What's up? What do I got?
Miss a couple meetings here.
I got Matt.
ACC.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, CC.
Hello, CC.
During, when we have people on there, and like Cece's not here, everything has to be a roll call.
Right.
And I keep forgetting.
No, you never forget anything.
We're not really get our little harbor, safe harbor ones.
Good man.
Yeah,
I ordered one.
You ordered, I don't know, Chamber's gonna get them to us.
No, I got messed.
Yeah, so the order's in place, so whenever they make, manufacture them, so
Hey, Victor,
hopefully this week maybe.
Hopefully that's still happening.
Yeah, just throw it to you.
Yes, Chuck.
Is it sanitized?
Hard. Nice catch.
What about throw?
Mark Rondell.
Hi, Mark. Mark is here. Hello, Mark.
Hi there. Even though I can't see you.
Have it open blinds?
Stand outside the window.
My drapes are open.
Put your clothes back on.
Yeah.
This video will be remembered forever.
Hello?
One
Hello?
of them.
Hello.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
Yeah, I think it would.
So we're gonna do our new meetings. That's right.
Right.
All right. New clubhouse. It's a clubhouse for city council. There's new office. Yeah. Yours is being built and rebuilt and rebuilt again on the street.
Is there anyone there that
Keeps the germs in.
my voice?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, static issues.
Denny,
That's different, huh?
Jeff, wow, look at this. 6 feet. Call the police.
Come out of the Dollar Tree, but anyway. That might not have fallen out of yours.
They're not walking.
I'm just trying to keep them safe.
Arm's length, 2 arms length.
Stay away.
I think we are live somewhere here.
All right, everyone, it's 7 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. Let's all do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mike Naturkis,
I am here.
John Leo,
Here.
John Cups,
Here.
Matt McGarrett,
I am here.
and CC Johnston.
I'm over here.
Keep her in a box.
All right, we're all here. We have some minutes to approve. Open meeting first from May 18th.
Make a motion to approve, same roll.
Second that. Second. All, roll call on that.
Yeah, I'll do roll calls on everything. John Leo,
Yes.
John Cups. Yes. Matt McGarrett,
Yes.
Mike Naturkis.
Yes.
And CC Johnston.
Yes.
Okay, and closed session minutes for the May 18th meeting.
I read through them and didn't see anything, so I would make a.
We'll get Sam Thursday.
I'll start.
Sam Thursday.
Second.
CC Johnston.
CC. See yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mike Naturkis.
Yes.
Matt McGarrett.
Yes.
John Cups.
Yes.
And John Leo.
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor, can I just go over the,
Rules of engagement?
yes, just very briefly. Just for those that are, for joining us, that haven't been at a council meeting through remotely. Just want to just go over some of the rules for public discussion on these topics. We are going to give the council opportunity to speak first, as we would do in a normal meeting. If you have comments on any agenda item, we are going to go to the people on the telephone first for any comments that they may have. I would like you to state your name, and then we will, once we go through everyone on the telephone, we will go to YouTube chat for any comments on agenda item. And please state your name if your name is not in your screen name, and we will read out your comments. Please try to keep your comments contained to the agenda item that we're speaking about at that time. We will move on to different agenda items. I'm only going to read out comments once from the public. So if you have several different comments and you want to engage in a back and forth, we're going to try to limit that back and forth. We're going to try to just say all your comments at once, and then if you have questions for council, they can answer those questions. And if you have more questions, you can answer a question back. But at that point, the mayor and the council decide how long they want to further engage comments with the public. I know we're going to try to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to speak, but we also want to follow our normal rules of discussion. So barring that, we can go on to citizen comments.
And we gotta pay the bills first.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Bill committee, make a motion to pay the bills.
I will second that.
John Cox,
Yes.
Matt O'Gara,
Yes.
John Leo,
Yes.
CC Johnston,
Yes.
Mike Maturkus.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, we can open up the floor to citizens' comment. Who wants to go first?
Telephone?
Telephone people?
This is Mark Rondell. I would like to make a citizen comment.
Go ahead.
Hello? Okay. To the council, I spoke with Victor earlier today. I've been told that there has been a vacancy. Hello?
No, you're still there, Mark.
Oh, okay, thanks. I've been told that there's been a vacancy that's come up on the planning commission. And I guess I was asking about procedures, but I would be interested in putting my name in the ring for consideration for an appointment to the planning commission. I just wanted to say that to the council. I don't know the process and how it all goes about, but if there is in fact an open position on the planning commission, I would be interested in considering that.
All right, thank you, Mark. At the end of the meeting, I typically do my appointments for boards and commissions. And Victor sent me a message saying you were interested, and we will discuss it at the end of the meeting and possibly appoint you. And
Okay, it isn't something I need to know instantly, but I just wanted to express my interest.
all right, well, thank you. We appreciate your offer.
All righty, thank you for the consideration.
All right. Anyone else on the phone for citizens' comment?
No, I'm okay. Okay.
All right.
Robbie.
Anyone else? Not just listening? All right, well, no more citizens' comment there. I guess we open it up to the crowd here, or
Well, YouTube.
YouTube.
So we do have one comment from a Bob Thompson. Why are council members not wearing masks? The executive order requires masks indoors in public spaces. Bob had this comment also at the planning commission meeting. I had asked him to reach out to both Chief Knight or myself to explain the executive order. I don't think Bob did that. Did he reach out to you? But council can speak for themselves, but Chief Knight can also maybe expand a little bit on some of that executive order too about masks.
We're social distancing, and as with restaurants and everything else, you don't have to wear it.
No, you're sitting. That's correct. That's what it is.
So Bob, if you heard that, They're social distancing, and you don't have to wear it when they're sitting. Responses from council members.
I'm gonna wear a mask because I'm afraid.
We have another comment from George Pete. I would also like to make known my interest in the open seat on the planning commission.
Okay. Thank you, George. If you could email me your contact information, I'll reach out to you tomorrow or the next day, and we can talk about what the position on the planning commission means.
Thank you, George. Any other comments on YouTube? Sometimes there's a delay, YouTube, so maybe we'll get a general comment later on in the agenda, but I only see those two right now, so.
Okay. All right. Anything in the gallery that's not on the agenda tonight?
I have two things. This is Kyle Knight, Chief of Police. First of all, I spoke with Victor. Lyle Reese has been a part-time officer with us for, I believe, like close to 19 years. Lyle's in his 60s, and he's done a great job for us. He's starting to limit how much time he's available. So I spoke with Victor and talked about possibly posting another part-time position. It will do absolutely nothing to the budget. It's basically replacing the hours that Lyle would normally work with, actually probably of less pay than Lyle. So, because what we're running into is Lyle's, I mean, you allowed me the opportunity to hire the additional officer a year ago. And since then, I've promised you that I would like uphold some things, and we eliminated basically the 301, 705 wages, seasonal part-time. There used to be like 10 to 15,000 out of that. We've not used any, and Nick would attest to that over the last 2 years. And basically, for example, in July, Lyle's asked for 2 weekends off, which is hard for us because of the fact that we need that extra person in the summer on the weekends. So I spoke with Victor because it's Victor's decision because it's a non-budgetary item. It's just basically taking the hours from one person and putting them to another. But I just wanted to, in case you saw something posted or answer any questions that you might have, that sort of what's going on. I spoke with Lyle about it. You know, I said, this isn't like I'm getting rid of him. It's just that the fact of his availability is becoming less. And I also am trying to plan ahead in case when he does leave, that I've got somebody, I'm not scrambling at the last minute. We went down this part-time road before. I really didn't get any good applicants, but who knows today, in today's economy, that there might be more people out there looking for work. And so I won't settle as I have not in the past, but I'm just sort of letting you know or answering any questions that you might have about it.
Sounds like a good plan.
It's not, it won't, like, I was looking in 2018, we had budgeted 15, excuse me, it's 15, our part-time budget was 17,000. In 16, it was 38,000, 17 was 24,000, and then in 18, it was 10,000. And so this year, for last year, 19, we budgeted at 14. So we've been under budget every year since I've been here. And I spoke with Victor about that. I work real hard. I keep track. I've got all my documents in there. Every pay period, I track how much we spent. And so, like I said, Lyle's in the $21, $22 an hour. When I hire somebody part-time, it'll probably be $18, so I'll save somebody there. It's just a sort of trade-off hours. And in the summer, I really need that extra person. Even though I have the extra full-time person, I need that extra body and weekends and events and stuff like that. Though this summer, the events might be skeptical, but so. Is his health good, or is he just getting ready to? He's got kids that are going, like one's going into the Navy, and so he's taken, or one of the armed services, so he's taking a weekend off for that. His health is good. He wants to make sure to spend some time with his wife, and predominantly it's a weekend job in the summer, especially like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so he just requested a couple of weekends off, and it's really putting us in the pinch right now. And I'm like, I don't want this to happen again. And he's taking basically 4 weeks off to do a medical procedure, so that really limits us as well. So I'm just trying to sort of
Cover.
All right. And then the other thing real quick is we had our Clia Assessment today, and it goes on tomorrow. We had it here. Our assessors out of Georgia, Victor spoke with them this morning. It's going outstanding. Tyler, especially Tyler Hoff's done a great job at it. He was very pleased. We had our call in today from 2:30, 4:30. Tomorrow at 3:30, he's doing our review. We're doing Zoom here, and so he asked if anybody wants to come and attend.
And I encourage you guys, if you want, you can come. He's gonna basically say how we did. And so if you have the time available and you wanna come in, we are conducting all of our meetings on Zoom in here, and you're more than welcome. I'd like to have you if you want. So 3:30 tomorrow.
3:30. Good.
So, but don't feel like you have to, I'm just opening it up, so, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no more citizens' comment, we'll move on to the city manager's section.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is back to Chief Knight. This is recognition for Officer Matt Pater, who is here today, for his about 18 years of service with the city. He began employment here in October of 2002, retired last month, I believe was his official notice. And staff and council would like to recognize him for his service and commitment to the Harbor Springs community. Chief Knight will say a few words of thanks to Mr. Pater for his service, and if Mr. Pater wants to say a few words about it.
I'm gonna be up here in front of the camera, and I'm gonna take my mask off just because I want to be genuine about this. Matt graduated from Lake Superior State, attended Petoskey High School, and then went to Lake Superior State. He started up here part-time, I hope I get this all right, in 1996. Then in 1996, he went down to Grosse Pointe as well, worked there for a couple years, came back up here in 2000 and worked part-time again. In 2002, he started here as a full-time officer, and he's been here ever since. He was, I believe, on the Chamber of Commerce and also the chairman for the sports boosters, and he also was in charge of the concessions. And I know that that's above and beyond just being a police officer. And having done that when I was in St. John's, I know it's a big time commitment, and that just reflects positively on our police department. Matt's one of those guys that he knew everybody in Harbor Springs, and when I came here, he helped me get to know people, and I greatly appreciate it. So I just want to, normally like we give plaques, or as we get older, the plaques just go in the closet and they stay there until somebody has to clean them out. So I just basically got a Matt a card. We can't at this time have any like public ceremony because of COVID, but if Matt could come up, I'd just like to thank him. And in conclusion, I really want to thank Carrie, his wife, and Jacob, and Clara. Until you're a police officer, you really don't know, or a spouse of a police officer, family member, you really don't know what the sacrifices are, whether it's missing sporting events or missing holidays. And Matt's done that. And I think it was on Matt's last day, we talked about the fact that, especially with what's happening in today's society, it's great to retire and not have to have done anything physical to anybody. And that's one of my goals, to hopefully never have to shoot anybody. And Matt's character and the fact that he's got a great personality and able to talk to people and basically downplay any aggressive thing, that's a tribute to Matt. I want to say thank you very much. Thanks for welcoming me, and you've done a great job. Congratulations.
Very much.
Watch it, Coach. Sorry. So Matt just has that personality. He can talk to anybody. He can even go with anybody. Not every police officer has that. And the fact that has been part of our department and done an outstanding job, I just want to say thanks again.
Well, thank you very
Good
much.
job.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, I have spent the majority of my police career here. I did start in '96, worked for a summer here before going downstate, came back in 2000. So it's been 21 of my 24 years have been here. So it's a great community. I mean, it's not far from where I grew up. Everybody's been supportive. It's one of those communities where when you're out there working alone, you're not alone, and I appreciate that very much.
Any council member comments?
No, thank you, Matt.
Yeah,
Thank you for your service. Enjoy your retirement.
Well, yeah, I'm working on my tan.
At least part of it.
Yeah.
Comments?
Thank you.
Any citizens' comment on the phone?
You know what? Robert, I just want to tell you, I'm so proud of our policemen. I can't stand it. I mean, I have to tell you, I'm very proud of our police, people that work for us. It's me, Robin Welsh.
Thank you, Robin.
Any comments on YouTube? I see none. So we can move on to item B. So this is item B, outdoor display of goods, ordinance questions. So John Mange, the owner of W Ware on 185 East Main Street, contacted me with questions about how to change the city's ordinance on the outdoor display of goods, which is ordinance 387, section 50.1205 of the zoning code. Mr. Mange believes that the ordinance and process for allowing such displays is unfair and inefficient. In particular, the clothing store next to him, Ivy Boutique, applied for and received permission to display mannequins in front of its store in June of 2018. Mr. Mange takes issue with the display of these mannequins and their proximity to his store. He's here by telephone to talk a little bit, but before that, I just want to have Mr. Jeff Grimm, our zoning administrator, explain a little bit about the outdoor display ordinance, the process for getting that license, and a little bit about the Ivy Boutique's approval in 2018. So Jeff, if you want to step up closer.
Oh. So one of the things that I want to point out about this is when we talk about outdoor display of goods, we really have to specify. We had a good discussion about this a couple of years ago. Jim Raymer weighed in with some thoughts. One thing that we have to point out is when we have a location of a store, and as an example, I'm going to use Kelble's Pharmacy downtown, where they have the entrance where the building cuts in, but there's a second floor roof that is over top of that. And the legal definition is that technically, even though it's outside of their front door, that is understood to be within their building. So that display of goods located in that storefront entryway is not an outdoor display of goods when we talk about this ordinance. Our ordinance permits that in a similar situation where we have a turn-in of an entryway where there is no second floor above, that if we were to continue the wall of that building across, they would be able to file an application and have an outdoor display of goods within that area. It does not go so far as to say that a building that does not have an in-cut like that, that just has frontage on the sidewalk with no building above, they would not be permitted to have an outdoor display of goods in front of their store. So the process for that application is they provide us a site plan, what it will look like. Part of that application process is we do require a petition where they show what their display of goods will look like. And they then go to all of the businesses on both sides of the street on the block that they're on. And they need a percentage of those people to agree to the look and style of that outdoor display. Ivy Boutique did do that, and I believe that Victor was given a copy of that application to share with you that shows the application, the petition with the signatures that she received, and I believe a picture of the display of what she intended to do. My understanding is that this is a one-time file. She applied for this in 2018 for that summer. And then since has been continuing to do the same outdoor display. I believe the one change has been that there is a third mannequin, but it does not seem to be taking up too much more of a dramatic amount of space in front of her store. And as you can see, there is a second floor above that, which is a porch balcony of the condominium project and the buildings above. And my view was that if you continue the wall of that building out as a corner, it would be within the structure. So if anybody has any concerns or thoughts about that.
I did, in reading through it, I did have the question about, so this is not an annual request. This is a one-time and it carries forward.
Yeah, the ordinance that we passed a few years ago does not specify that it has to be applied for on an annual basis. Other license applications we have specify the ordinance has to be applied on an annual basis.
Just wanted to clarify.
So if, Jeff, you're done, I'll take it to Mr. Mange. I know you're on the telephone if you want to say a few words based on why you wanted to come to council.
Yes, I do. Again, we share a common area at the corner of, northwest corner of
of Spring and Main at 185 and 189 East Main Street, where the recipient of the permit shares a patio-like common area. The two shops are joined with 2 feet between their entrances. This rule granting a permit to display outdoor goods outside in front of the shop, I believe, is defective. In order to get the permit, the applicant has to distribute a petition to the shopkeepers in a block area adjoining the applicant's shop. This creates a mob-type rule effect. How can a shop owner a block away dictate what display can be next to my business? Since our entrances are 2 feet apart, their displays are as close as 6 feet from my entrance. This is deceptive. Pedestrians, when seeing this display, may think the display represents my store products, which is not the case. One may question who is really selling these products. Either store is a freestanding store and has no setbacks. We were never asked about the permit application, nor were we able to give any input. This has created a sidewalk flea market type image to the general public and not consistent with the Harbor Springs ambience. And there's no limit to what can be displayed. Since these 2 shops are part of the condominium, the Top of Harbor Condominium Association, the association was never notified or contacted this common area. Both stores have 7 windows in which to display their merchandise. Everywhere has worked exceedingly hard to maintain presence of upscale store and storefront for almost 20 years in Harbor Springs, reflecting what Main Street Harbor Springs represents. It always has been mindful and thoughtful of our shared space. This experience has created conflict and adversarial relationship with our neighbor and everyone involved. It really takes the joy out of coming to work. We request that this permit be rescinded and that the permit process be rewritten to include approval of adjoining shop owners, and that displays must be located far enough away from other shops so as not to create conflict. Again, thank you for your consideration and thoughts. We appreciate your time, John, Juan, and Nan, of Wware.
Thank you, John.
Anyone on council have any comments or questions before we turn it up to the public?
I got a few. Why doesn't Wware put out a couple displays?
They have every right to.
They could go through the same application process.
It doesn't impede. They went through the process. I don't see anything wrong with what they do there, so I don't.
Who's talking?
John Cups on the council. My question, I guess, is why don't you put out a couple displays, that go along with your shop?
Well, I guess that would create an even more questionable experience about who's looking at it and whose material or merchandise goes to which shop. I have a sign out in front of my entrance, and Ivy does not have a sign. So when you look at that from the store, from the road, you can see my sign and those things next to my shop entrance, and it was the appearance that those merchandise are part of my retail bin.
Well, I've never been in your store, so I can't speak for what you have, but it would seem to me if she's advertising something and people come into your store you know, off the cuff. I mean, you're getting people walking through your door, might not be what they're really looking for, but you're getting people through your door that might end up buying something. So.
You know, I haven't had this problem for the 15 or more years that I've been here. I get people coming into my store saying, oh, is that stuff out there part of your shop?
And then why don't you say, no, but I have this.
2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 6 feet from my store entrance? Seriously?
Any other council comments or questions?
Yeah, I don't have anything.
At this point, let's open it up to the public.
Cece, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
All right. Open up to public comment on the phone. No
We got some-
public comment. Got a couple things on the YouTube.
We have some comments from Brian Bedini, I believe is the owner at Ivy. Only two, I think he was referring to mannequins, but, so he goes, John, your planters take up more room than our mannequins. Ivy and I have never had a complaint other than John, and I would ask Jeff if he has received any complaints other than from John. John, we do have signage. Jeff, has there been any complaints about the mannequins?
No, I have not received any complaints other than discussions I've had with John. And if we go back to that picture that we had up there, you can see that Ivy has one sign in her window right behind the mannequins. And I believe you can't see it on the door because the door is open, but she has, I believe, further signage, window decals on the door itself. So.
I see no other comments on YouTube.
I have a question. Robin,
Hey, Robin.
and I love shopping in Harbor Springs, and I love it. I love our seafood, and I just love cooking here. And I love our restaurant. Not to be facetious, called New York, but I love stuff. And I'm just concerned because we used to live in California, and man, that place turned into a t-shirt shop, and it looked tacky. Tacky, tacky, tacky. I don't want Harbor Springs to turn into that. That's just my opinion. You can go with it and go big, go home. That's my thought.
Thank you, Robin.
Disgusting.
Didn't hear what was discussed.
The only other comment I see is on YouTube is from Brian Bedini. We are trying to be good neighbors. Any other comments from anyone in the room or in the public?
Well, I'm happy to lay the ordinance stand.
Margot Demuse, DDA Director.
I just wanted to add in that I have not received any complaints from the downtown or any of the other shop owners or the public as far as the mannequins or any of that goes.
I would only add that, we have that section of the ordinance regarding outdoor display of goods that requires a petition of 60%, I believe it's 60% of the neighbors. And I think that's our way of trying to get feedback from other businesses to maintain the level of quality of a display that they think that we need to have in Harbor Springs to maintain the look and desired neighborhood that we have.
I would agree.
And it is cumbersome for applicants to go through that process. So when they do to do an outdoor display of goods, that's a process of going to all those neighbors to get that information.
Just as a resident, I don't see any confusion. The signage, the stuff is in front of her windows. His windows are separate. I would say there's no confusion about whose product belong in which retail space. just as an observer of the way that's laid out, especially with the planter partition between the two entrances. To me, there's no question that those are items that are in the Ivy and not anything to do with W-Ware. Just as an observation.
And as far as, I believe Mr. Mange made a comment about the condominium association, that is the topic about who governs that common space. That's with the association to figure out. That's not a city. So I know there's some questions about that, but that's not for the city council or the city staff to really dive into. But about the ordinance, the council, of course, can decide about the ordinance. So I hear but based on what the council is saying, I hear there's no desire to try to rework that ordinance, unless I'm mistaken.
Not in the absence of complaints or other feedback, broader complaints and other feedback.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Moving on.
So I guess my complaint doesn't count, huh?
We do have a comment on YouTube from Dana Mulder. Ivy has brought a lot of life and a lot of business to downtown. If it was approved, we should follow through on our commitment.
Okay. Moving on.
If I receive any complaints or comments about that display of goods or any other display of goods within town, I'll make sure to come back to council and we can readdress the issue if we receive any more concerns about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. So let's move on to item 3C, COVID-19 updates and discussion. Since our last council meeting, this always happens. The governor issues new executive orders. The latest one, I believe, was order number 110 that came out today. And the city will have more analysis on that tomorrow, but essentially they're opening up much more throughout the entire state, allowing for larger outdoor gatherings of 100 people, but still practicing social distancing rules and other openings. We will be opening City Hall on June 8th to the public. Our staff is here full time, but we will be opening June 8th. Of course, we're still available by email and phone calls. We will post our rules, our social distancing rules and guidelines on the website as well and the city entrance. So there's some few changes for the public to be aware of, but rest assured we're doing our best to make sure that everything operates smoothly and safely for our staff and the public. So we have we have quite a few issues that have come up since before the last council meeting and since the last council meeting regarding a lot of different aspects of COVID-19 that are indirectly related to the new situation we have based on the governor's orders as well as based on just the general safety and health situation. So I kind of divided the different things into two categories: items that I felt could be decided here or should be decided here at this council meeting, then other items that I think need further, based on the conversation that I've had with our city planner, our city attorney, as well as our zoning administrator, items that should go to the planning commission for review and then come back to council for final approval or not disapproval, depending on what council wants to decide. And some of these topics could also go to the DDA and our harbor commission as necessary, because we do have those meetings in between now and the next planning commission meeting.
Victor, you're fading.
Sorry, CC, I'll continue to speak louder. So the first item is the 4th of July.
There's somebody on the phone who is either eating something or banging their phone somehow. It's making a lot of noise.
Please, if you are on the phone, please mute your phone unless you are speaking. If you are both on the phone or YouTube, either choose one or the other or mute them both at this time. I know the sound audio on YouTube can sometimes interfere. All right, so the first item is 4th of July parade and fireworks. I believe it was in April, the council decided that by June 1st, we would decide whether or not we would go ahead with July 4th festivities. Mainly, at that time, we pretty much decided that the parade was probably definitely a no-go, but fireworks was undecided. Other cities, such as Boyne City and Traverse City, have canceled their fireworks and their festival Petoskey reached out to me just a couple days ago to let me know that they've canceled their fireworks and their 4th of July activities. So council's decision essentially is to, will we allow fireworks to proceed, and are we confirming that we're not having any other 4th of July activities such as the parade going on? So I'll leave that up for the council to decide.
John?
I do not think we should have the parade, as much as I would love to see it, inviting 5, 6, 7,000 people into town at a time when the virus is still circulating. I don't think would be safe or appropriate. On the fireworks front, I think we should move forward. My rationale, you cannot socially distance for a parade. You just can't. You can, I believe, socially distance for the fireworks. It's the 4th of July. It's one of the very, very few celebrations that we can actually conceive of that would work. I think we should allow it.
Absolutely.
Josh?
I agree. No parade, and I think we should
No
try
parade.
to shoot the fireworks. Shoot fireworks. I spoke with Kathy Breitner. I know she's on the phone earlier just to see if it could be pulled off. And Kathy, if you want to speak up, but it sounds like it could be if we voted for it.
Yeah, I say the only issue with the fireworks, we're gonna be the only one in Northwest Michigan fireworks.
I heard Mackinac City was doing theirs.
So 2 of us in Northwest Michigan, we may have 10,000 people show up.
There's chatter that Petoskey wants to split it with us and shoot one unified one, so they still people be around. They don't have to back out farther instead of tucking it in.
Okay.
That way, people won't come over here, they'll stick over that way. So that actually would be, I think that would be good.
Cece, do you have any comments for us?
Yes, I have one person or local citizen who has said to me that they would like to see the parade and the fireworks. Personally, I'm against the fireworks because I know how people gather on the waterfront and up on the bluff, and I don't think there could be social distancing for the fireworks.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to agree with that.
Let's wait.
All right.
Is there any other council comments before we open it up to public comments?
Well, my only thing, I mean, respectfully to Cece, would be somewhere along the line, people got to hold themselves accountable. I mean, we get the social distancing thing and stuff like that, but you know, it's a festival. If we can work with Petoskey and slide it out, then yeah, then you got people scattered, you know, miles, you know, watching the fireworks. So if you don't like the person that's standing right next to you, move away or say something to them. I mean, it's somewhere along the line, we got to get some kind of normalcy back here, and people got to take, you know, responsibility for their own actions at some point.
Agreed.
And moving the barge out, I hadn't thought about that, but that would really increase the area
It opened it up.
where you can see them from.
So before we go to public comment, there were 2 public comments about this in your council packet. One from Sarah Gurney, that she said, I would hope Harbor Springs makes a smart decision not having the 4th this year. I understand money lost. Gurney's also, but it is a safety just for 1 year. Whoever makes this decision, please let it be for our town's safety. And then there was also a comment from, I believe, Gerlin Nikowitz. I don't know how to pronounce her last name there, but my husband and I have owned a unit at Trout Creek for 30 years. We spend a lot of time there every summer. The highlight of this summer is the fireworks and parade for the 4th of July. Our grandkids are with us only every other 4th of July, and if these are canceled, we will not be able to enjoy them with our family for 2 years. Please do not cancel the festivities due to the coronavirus this year. I am sure with some creativity, we can all enjoy the event while staying safe. I guess maybe now we can open it up to public comment on the phone.
This is Kathy Breitner. I'm the head of the Tabor Foundation this year. I switch every other year with Greg Garber. It's my turn this year. And we raise the funds for the fireworks. It's a $55,000 quest that we have every year to provide a display that we believe is very special for Harbor Springs. We are willing to do what you direct us to do that is safe. If you choose to allow the fireworks, then we'll get a mailing together promptly and go raise the funds to make this happen. If not, we have already purchased the fireworks and have made a deposit for them. They haven't paid for the rest of it yet. And we have learned from our fireworks provider that they can be safely kept for us for next year. So we are ready to do what you think is best for the community.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Is there any other?
Josh Baker,
uh,
sorry, Josh Baker from the Outfitter.
Yeah.
I think the best thing I've heard is moving the barge out, maybe to the middle of the bay to allow, if you all decide this is a good idea, to allow people to spread out into the state park at least. And in Petoskey, if not, we're gonna have 10,000 people in town. It's gonna be an absolute shoulder to shoulder, maybe the only ones in northern Michigan, maybe Mackinac City. And I think with today's announcement, with 100 people from Governor Whitmer, that loosens things up a little bit, but it also, I would try, if you decide to do this, I would give yourselves an out at this point, in case there is a second spike and things go bad again, things go south again. Because south is gonna come north for this baby, I can guarantee you that, it's gonna be crazy. And I guess I would approach this with more trepidation, or I guess more caution than I'm hearing so far. I totally agree that it would be an incredible shot in the arm, not only for the town, but for everybody, to have them. But I would be very careful, saying, yeah, we're a go. I think Kathy's recommendation, or Kathy's suggestion that the fireworks do hold for a year is great, because that's a ton of money and a huge effort to raise all that money. But I would really consider, please, if you're gonna do it, at least in the middle of the day or something, where people have more chance to spread out than just in Harbor Springs.
Thank you, Josh. Any other comments on the phone?
I'm Shirley Snyder. I'm just very concerned about the safety of the people, because everybody does get close regardless. I mean, I saw that over the past holiday, just on the corners, people were not wearing masks. They were all high and been grabbing together and so forth. I think we really need to worry about the safety of our people, the people who live here all the time also. And I don't think we would like the advertisement that we would get that X amount of people had the virus and came to Harbor Springs. You know, Emma County has been doing extremely well and has been doing it in very safety conscious.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on the phone? All right, we'll turn it over to YouTube.
So the YouTube comments we have, Brian Bedini, fireworks, yes, much support in the city. Bob Thompson, I am concerned if you don't do city fireworks, then people will try to do their own do-it-yourself fireworks shows, which could cause a lot of harm. Brian Bedini says, would be a great bonding moment for the community. Bob Thompson says, people do stupid stuff with fireworks. Jeff James says, I agree with Cece. Who will police the social distancing? Petoskey admitted in the paper they cannot raise enough money. No wonder they want to split it. Justin Law, Nikki Law, I'm sorry. We should definitely urge not to do the fireworks this year. And Dana says, is there a way to police crowds? So I guess first, let's go to Chief Knight if he has any comments about the policing and monitoring of that.
I don't think that we have the staff to police social distancing on the 4th of July. It would take probably 30 to 40 officers to monitor all the areas that we would have to monitor, as well as I think that it would create some people are in favor of it, some people are not. And as John Cuff spoke, or somebody spoke, at some point we have to take responsibility for our own actions. And I know that could spread elsewise. I mean, let's say somebody came in at the fireworks and got COVID and went to the grocery store and spread it. Like recently, there was a case in northern Michigan where the person went to the casino and they did the tracing and it reflected negatively, but we're all responsible for our own actions. So we couldn't necessarily police social distancing for the amount of people that are going to be in town. I just don't see that. Number one, we don't have the manpower, and number two, to go up to individuals and try to determine if they live in the same household or not would be incredible. I mean, we would not be able to go up to a group of 6 people that are within 3 feet of each other and say, did you all come from the same household? Because in most part, they could very well could have. And then all we're doing I'm asking our officers to get in the middle of a debate that's probably not winnable. So I don't necessarily want to put my officers in that situation. I'm not saying that I understand that concern, but I just don't think it's a viable solution to try to police 5,000 people, 7,000 people when we don't know what household they all left from. So hopefully that answers the question.
Well, that would get back to what John said about personal responsibility.
That's
the only way.
Right.
So thank you, Kevin.
But I will say, like, we had the parade, for example, the senior parade last Friday, and I feel like for the most part, everybody did the right thing. They social distanced. Everybody used their head for the most part and didn't stand next to each other. So that was to me an indication that at least some people are taking it serious and they're using good judgment. So that's it. Thank you.
Got a few more comments on YouTube. Deborah Shaner, there are many cities and towns doing virtual fireworks. While it is not the same, people may congregate in small groups and watch them. Patty Beck, if no parade, would there be art in the park? Jeannie Kolinsky, as we observed here tonight, the city can't even enforce social distancing provisions and masks in city council chambers. 3/4 of the visible council members are breaking the executive order. Kathy Breitner, one other point from the Chamber Foundation, if we move the barge to the middle of the bay, the people of Harbor Springs will be contributing to a different display than when we normally celebrate. Nikki Law, we would have even more people coming to our community than normal due to other communities not having fireworks. Town is packed on a normal year. It will be more this year if we go forward. Deborah Shaner, also virtual fireworks can be found on websites or other digital media that would not be costly, allowing our funds and deposit to be used next year. So, council?
I think planning it out where they do put that barge out there, and if we do take ads out in the paper, saying, stay in your town, stay in your area, go to the waterfront that way. I think that would be better, because I don't think you're gonna get a mad rush over here. I think people want to be responsible. I think they want to be, I think people want to be safe. So I think it's a good idea to do it that way too. I mean, it can't hurt.
Without the parade, I don't know what the draw would be.
I don't think there'll be as many people over here because the parade, nobody's gonna just, you know what I mean?
Although if we are the only ones, or one of the only 2 in northern Michigan to do it, people want to see fireworks, will come. There's no simple.
And I think if they open up us, I think other people may do it. They may see that Harbor Springs is doing it in conjunction with Petoskey, and so maybe Charlevoix might change and they may do it, or whatever the case may be.
Petoskey's not doing it, period. So
right.
There's no in conjunction with Petoskey. It'd be our firework display, just be out in the middle of the bay.
Well, to Kathy's point, yes, it would be a very different experience, but it would provide more room for space for social distancing.
Right.
And it would be better than, there'd be something rather than nothing.
Yep.
Chief Knight, are there, if you know of any, or Kathy might know as well, any state regulations or anything for if they can be in the middle of the bay or not?
My only concern, I think it's a great idea. And I don't know how far in the middle of the bay. A lot of it, when you think about our harbors, the fact that they put the barge in the harbor, I believe is part of it's the harbor. And so it's not like it would be sort of wind dependent. I don't think they could necessarily put it out in the middle of the bay. Maybe they could put it out towards the end of the point, so these would be accessible. But I don't know. Without knowing how the barge works, I've been out with Dean around the barge, and I know that when we go around the barge, it's pretty calm in the harbor. The further out, if we were to go past that point with a point, it's going to be tough. I would say that I don't know if the barge people would want to take that risk, but we could move it out further so it could be maybe to the southeast.
This is Kathy. The fireworks provider makes arrangements with the barge. And I would have to check with him to see if he's comfortable with leaving the harbor. I can see a weather scenario where he would not feel comfortable leaving the harbor. Your decision is a tough one, I know, but we've got to raise a lot of money in a short period of time. And moving it out on a barge in the middle of the bay is probably not an option that would work well for our fireworks provider or for our donors. We've also heard from the Convention Bureau that they have a suspicion that the governor might ban fireworks statewide. That may be a rumor. I would assume that if she was going to do that, she would do it now unless she thinks cities have this in her budget. And in our case, you don't. It's raised privately.
This is Josh Baker again. I agree with moving it out. Sorry, I would think I was totally off on that. If it's even blowing, if you have 2-foot waves out there, which is every day, if you have mass, I would think. Also, we're canceling the parade. And the reason is we can't control social distancing. And I believe me, I want fireworks. I don't think they're a good idea this year. I don't think there's any way to safely do this. And I come back again to the fact that we would be one of the very, very few in Northwest Michigan. And we're going to have people from all over the place in here, thousands and thousands of people. And by canceling the parade, council has already taken a stand. No, we can't control that. I think fireworks is right along those same lines.
Thank you, Josh. Any other public comment?
The phone.
Any public comment on the phone?
This is Shirley again, and I strongly agree with Josh. I think, it is very unsafe.
Thank you.
I will go to the public comments on YouTube really quick, but also we have to consider for going out in the bay any permits from the Coast Guard or state, so that would be another potential issue. But so there are some more comments on YouTube. I forgot exactly where I left off before, but Deborah Shaner says, also virtual fireworks can be found on websites or other digital media.
That's where you left off.
Okay. Jeannie Kolinsky says, I can't see how you are going to prevent people from crowding into Harbor Springs out of habit. Bob Thompson says, unless you place the barge close to Petoskey, the people in Petoskey will drive around. Patty Beck says 4th is on Saturday this year, which will generally bring additional people to the area than normal. And Deborah Shaner, putting a barge in the middle of the bay would be difficult for the barge, the orchestrators with the type of weather conditions that may be encountered out in open waters. So I guess this would be a good time to give one last call for public comment so we can keep it orderly before we go to council decision.
Yeah, it's a tough call. My question is, what is the reason for having the fireworks, that necessity of having them this year? Is it financial? Is it to bring business to town? I think business is going to be in town one way or another, and more of a manageable business. I don't see there being a revenue increase by having the fireworks this year. So I guess, at first I was thinking, yes, it could be possible we could spread people out around the bay by putting it way out in the middle, and people could be in the state park, along down there by Glenn's, by, everything like that, and maybe Petoskey could kick in. But at the end of the day, when you can't control Mother Nature, the sea state and the anchoring of the barge would all create some real situations that we have no control over. So I guess I'm more leaning towards, it might be a good idea to forego the fireworks for 1 year, and I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for most people, because it's just a fireworks, and at the end of the day, it's not really that important. I mean, it's enjoyable. We all love it. Been there, done it, seen it. We'll be there and do it and see it again. So because of safety and because of the influx of people from out of the area, probably mostly from downstate and more high targeted areas of the COVID, probably would be a wise idea to forego it for 1 year. It's only 1 year. It's not any big deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only other comment we have is from YouTube, Jeannie Kolinsky. I agree with Debbie. So I guess hearing no other public comments, I think now it's up for council, either for a motion or for more discussion.
Well, I think we should find out, first of all, if we do take the barge and put it closer to the point. I don't think we need to put it out in the middle of the bay. I guess what I'm trying to say is just open it up in the bay area, because it doesn't get that bad right there, even if it does. And the wind actually turns down about that time. We all know that from racing boats, that it comes in at about 4 or 5 o'clock, and it can blow out until around 8:30, and it tends to calm down then. So it might be a little bit easier just to get it sneaking outside there. I think we can manage the amount of people that are coming into town. I think that can be done.
People are gonna be here regardless.
Yeah, they're gonna be here anyway, but that's what I'm saying, if they're gonna come down, they're gonna come down. What's the
Well,
difference? You
I
know?
do feel if we were to say we are going to have fireworks, we're going to attract people.
Of course.
Yeah, that's gonna bring people to
I mean,
town.
I know this would be an emotional discussion. and
It's not gonna be it's not a financial decision.
There's no,
It's not a financial
that was
decision.
not the intent. My interest in it was to have a little slice of normal.
Yeah.
With one of the very few opportunities to have it not be directly in the city.
And it's okay to start that.
Of the many people I talked to, I'd say 8 and 10 said, yeah, even talking about the concerns. But this discussion has brought out a number of pretty valid points, including the variability, if we can't get the barge out in the middle because of weather. And that's,
And they're already gonna be all scattered all the way around the base, so they gotta scooch it in a little bit, I mean, it's just, I think it can be done.
there's a lot that's beyond our control.
Well, and it's the Coast Guard, whether they would allow it.
Anyway,
All right,
those are my thoughts.
This is a good discussion.
Off one thing.
Yeah.
Just if we were to possibly have them, and it's like, we still don't know what's gonna be the result of Memorial Day. And I know that Kathy would need to raise the funds, but if they would store for a year, I know we said June 1st was our drop dead date, but if we had a go ahead, and let's say June 15th, I know we need to make a decision tonight. But for, let's say, some reason, all of a sudden Emmett County has 300 cases of COVID on June 15th because of what the result was of Memorial Day. That if you still would have an out, they're stored for a year, you could still proceed through all the funds. I'm just throwing this out there. You could still proceed with the funds and plan on having it. And for some reason, if everything broke terrible, you would still have the opportunity to pull the plug at the last minute. Not the last minute, so let's say 2 weeks. I'm just throwing it out there. Because we don't know what's gonna happen as a result of Memorial Day. Obviously, Memorial Day, there was a lot of people here. And not everybody social distance, and we won't know those facts until 2 or 3 weeks.
At the earliest.
This is Kathy again. It's an extraordinary amount of work to raise these funds. And there's an expense involved from the foundation to get the mailing out. We need to be able to tell people when we send this mailing out, we either we're on or we're not. And we've already waited until June 1st to do our mailing. We cannot wait any longer, and we cannot commit to a fireworks display in the harbor, outside our harbor, without talking to our fireworks provider, and I'm guessing he's going to say no.
And the Coast Guard, we don't know what it would take to do that.
all right. Well, we're gonna
You're
beat this
asking
one.
us to raise money to put the barge out in the middle of the bay to benefit the people of Petoskey. This is an extraordinary amount of work again for us to raise $55,000 in 30 days.
Yeah, all right, yeah. I'll make a motion that we cancel the fireworks this year.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Cece.
Discussion on the motion?
Cece seconded it.
Nick,
Wait down there.
Nick,
Roll call. John Cops.
so just to be clear, if a vote yes means you're yes for canceling, a no vote means you want them to go forward.
Say that again.
If you vote yes, that means you are agreeing to cancel the fireworks. If you vote no, that means you want the fireworks to go forward.
Given the information with Kathy and what the foundation has to do, I'll agree with Matt.
Say yes
Either
or
or as
no.
well.
Yes, yes or no?
John Leo.
Yes.
Matt O'Gara.
Yes.
Mike Natarkas.
No.
CC Johnston.
Yes.
Cancel of the fireworks, motion carried.
So the motion carried. Fireworks are canceled for those on YouTube who might have not been able to hear. There was some other public comments there afterwards, but that's this council's decision, so.
Good discussion. Thank you all for your input.
Okay.
All right.
From COVID land.
Back to the next COVID item, extension of utility payment due dates. So currently, there is no penalty for people making late utility payments through June 15th. We've originally made it to May 15th and pushed it to June 15th. Council just has the opportunity here to either extend the payment date for utility bills further into the summer if they should choose, whether they think it's still a benefit for people. So I think, Nick, we're still doing pretty well financially. We're still getting most payments.
It really hasn't been a big deal, no, for people needing that extension. People have been keeping out, so I don't know that the extension is needed at this point.
Where are we at with the online payment? Is that up and
Yeah,
running?
that's a couple months out, yeah,
Oh, it
Oh, it
is.
still is. That'll be nice when that's done.
yes.
But you have not seen a significant number.
No,
And it is obviously a benefit to those who need it.
right.
Yeah, I say with the businesses being open now, it shouldn't be an issue anymore. People are going back to work. But, yeah.
I feel that there's probably people who are still hurting, and I think we should extend it at least until September 15th.
Okay. Any public comment on the phone? No. Any public comment on the YouTube?
I see none on the YouTube. So I guess we need a motion. We'll need a motion.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend the no penalty for late payments until September 15th.
What's your rationale behind September 15th?
I feel, I don't know how many people there are, but I feel that we should be able to give them the time that they may need. I mean, that's through the end of the summer.
Right. That's fine, thank you.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second
John Cobb's.
I have a question. What is, I mean, financially, as far as your concerns on that going so late? Is there an issue?
No, not in this situation. It wouldn't be something that would be a big detriment to the city. The penalties that we collect on late payments are negligible at any point in the year. So it's not a financial issue, it's more of a political issue, I guess.
So 80% of people
I'll
are
support
paying, just paying regularly. anyway.
People have been paying regularly anyway, so.
I'll support.
And I have a delayed public comments from YouTube. Sorry, before you guys vote further. If the city can afford it, we should give people time to pay. I think that was from Jeannie Kolinsky and from Brian Bedini. I think that much time is way out of line. But anyway, we have a motion, a support,
Second by
and then
Leo.
a support by Cups.
Yeah, and that's we're just extending no penalties.
No penalties.
Correct. We're not extending.
You still can make your payment, you just don't get a penalty for paying.
If you don't. So in a way, people could still pay.
So I have a motion by C.C. Johnston to extend the penalty, to extend not having penalties
Thank you.
until September 15th, and with a second by John Leo. John Cups voted aye. John Leo.
Aye.
Matt Bagera.
Aye.
Mike Turkis. Aye. Motion carried.
Didn't vote.
She didn't. She's doing 2 cents and it ran. That's all right. That's it. You only need 4. It's 3.
Okay, we will move on to our next COVID-19 topic, and that's tables at the downtown parks. Last council meeting, the council agreed for city to purchase 5 metal tables. And then the DDA mentioned that they could perhaps do a fundraiser to find donors to donate 5 more. The DDA was able to find 5 or 6, I believe now, potentially donors for metal tables. The city contacted Councilmember Naturkis, had someone who could sell us potentially wooden tables. We contacted that person, and he wasn't willing to sell to the city. So the issue right now we have is last council meeting, we approved to purchase 5 metal tables from the city, get 5 donated from the residents and businesses, and then purchase 5 wooden tables. However, now we're not getting those 5 wooden tables, and the question is, would the council like us to seek further donations for more metal tables? I don't recommend, based on our city financial situations, to just continue purchasing more tables out of the city budget at this time, unless, I think as Denny, we prefer to go with the metal tables instead of wooden tables anyway. We could continue looking for donations if council thinks we need more tables. But I think getting 10 tables, potentially 11 right now, is going to make a big difference for our parks. And we could always purchase more tables next year, the metal tables, as a part of a city planned purchasing for tables.
Right.
I think that makes sense financially. Before this happened, Denny had suggested, like I mentioned last time, we need 10 metal tables for the city parks downtown. Nick and I were talking about, Quick Whitaker, about let's go with 5 this year and 5 next year, but now it looks like we're getting 10 or 11 this year, potentially more. I'm not opposed to people donating more if we need it, but at this point, I'm happy with what we've gotten. I thank those who have donated so far. And I don't know if Denny or Margot would like to speak on anything so far, if you want to.
No, that's what we agree with that, and we're hoping to get an annual purchase of picnic tables when we build our next budget.
Very good.
Any
Public comment on the phone? Sounds like it. Anything on the YouTube?
No, there's nothing.
Anything at the table? Motion? No motion?
I don't think we need a motion unless you want us to purchase more.
Yeah, I think the 5 this year we're getting in the donations is good.
Yeah, well done on the donation front.
Yeah, good job, Margo.
Jeff James really quickly says metal tables get hot, correct? ? There are other places to get wooden tables. I will buy one.
Like Little Fleet and places like that do outdoor dining in Traverse City, I'll use metal. They're easier to clean,
And I think we had this discussion at last council meeting, how our Parks and Rec director, Denny, recommends we use metal tables. They're just overall better, but
Easier to clean, longer life, and consistency with what we already have.
No,
No
we
maintenance.
were working on a deal last time and it fell through, so stick with what we started with.
Agreed.
Okay. I will move on to the next COVID item, which is hand washing sanitation stations. There have been questions about the potential for locating hand washing or sanitation stations in downtown Harbor Springs. Several other cities throughout the country are doing so. For example, Traverse City here in Michigan. I know Seattle has them as well, I believe. The idea is to give visitors and residents a way to practice good personal hygiene. The city may be able to buy soap, however. Refills for dispenser sanitizers are difficult to come by. Our DPW director is searching daily for the availability. Has not been able to place an order for any. Other staff members have expressed concerns about people gathering at these stations. Some other questions to consider. Who will purchase them, city versus CDA if they're downtown? Who will maintain them, be responsible for them? What is the cost to do so? How to secure them? Where would they be located? Just downtown or throughout the entire city for residents who maybe don't venture downtown but take walks throughout town? What specific locations should they be located? Sidewalks, parks? Are they needed with all the other ways people can sanitize, wash their hands? Businesses have sanitizer, bathrooms have soap. Many people carry their own on them. And the aesthetic concerns. Not saying one way or the other, I just think these are all questions to consider when discussing that.
Any thoughts at the table?
Well, I was just in Traverse City, and they had them around Traverse City. So we used them when we were there. So maybe down by the stadium and maybe 2 other in the town park area would probably be a good idea. I find it pretty hard to believe that it'd be hard to get soap or sanitation for that. I mean, him and I buy it all the time from the restaurants, and I have no problem getting it.
The ones they have in Traverse City, are those soap and water or are they sanitary?
It's soap, it's sanitizing soap, it's got 2 sides, you pump with the foot, wash your hands, and done. It's real easy. I mean, even if you had a couple of them, I think it's a good idea. Especially down by the stadium, as we start maybe opening that up for people that everybody's touching the handrails.
Was Lucas on? If he can reach out to Traverse City and see what they got or how they're going about it.
Yeah, I think Lucas is on either on YouTube or,
Yeah, okay, man, I heard him.
so Lucas said, he just texted me, he can do that. He can search for.
Just see if we can call Traverse City and see what they're doing and see if it's something we could pick up on.
Yeah.
It is hard to get the liquid hand sanitizer.
That's the hard, yeah, the soap is not the problem.
Soap's real easy to get.
It's the hand sanitizer that's difficult.
It's just a
Trade-off
But
there.
soap is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Soap
Soap's the answer, soap and water is the answer, so they say. But one of my suppliers today, they've got the dispensers,
but they don't have the.
but they don't have the
liquid.
sanitizer.
Same thing.
Right, so same.
So getting sanitizer is really difficult right now.
The trade-off sounds like it's easier to get the soap, but it's more overhead to maintain
Right.
the stations. And you just enumerated a list of very valid questions, so we don't really have a plan. I like the idea of having sanitizer stations available because this issue is this isn't like the summer. It's gonna be around for a while. And if we have them, they can be strategically located. At some point, sanitizer will become available and they can be used when we have big events. I mean, if we're gonna try to help with the sanitizing, but we don't have a plan in front of us. We don't know how many or where they might be, so maybe flesh it out. Get some more information or come back. Yeah.
See what the options are.
But in principle, I like not the water and the soap, sanitizer. I mean, companies are ramping up to make more sanitizer at some point. Supply will catch up with demand.
And, it gets back to people being responsible for themselves. I mean, if you're concerned, you should carry your own sanitizer with you.
Right.
Last time I flew on a plane, I mean, every lady on the plane grubbed in her purse, got her Clorox wipes out and sanitized the plane.
And a lot of the sanitizer, a lot of the places that are making sanitizer that did it because they were making liquor,
Right.
they're switching back to the liquor.
Right.
So sanitizer isn't gonna, it's gonna just, as this kind of dissipates, then it's gonna become more available, but a lot of companies are starting to actually back down on making sanitizer. They just are. Everybody's trying to get back to some normality.
If we had a specific plan to talk about, it would be one thing.
But a washing sink is kind of cool just to have down at the stadium, even for little kids to wash your hands and eat pizza. It's just good. It still would be a good investment.
Well, I guess my question then would be, do we research all the options as far as hand washing station or sanitizer? Or do you want one or the other, or do you want both? I mean, I guess I want a little more direction, so we aren't going all in different directions.
You're in business.
You want,
they don't need to be scattered all over town, but I mean, if there's one down by the park and one down by the stadium, I mean, that's all you really need. There's other places they can go wash their hands. And in between, they can use sanitizer if they have it, but.
the note from Lucas here, who's listening, but not speaking on the phone. Water and soap are easy, but the paper towel creates trash as well. Just something to keep in mind.
Right. Yes, does.
If you want to open up the public comments and stuff. Or CC.
Anyone on the phone or CC, I guess, first?
I personally think that if they can get sanitizer, fine. I think soap and water and all that, no.
Right.
That's just my opinion. I really think most people, or at least the ladies, like you just said, are carrying hand sanitizer with them. And I mean, if you're in a family, you know, you pass it around.
Right. No, I agree with you. Margot?
I agree with people's own, taking their own precautions, but I know most of you know that I put out a survey kind of to the public, and the public really responded with that they would feel comfortable as they're out downtown shopping and going around with some sort of sanitizing or hand washing kind of available throughout. I don't think this issue is going to go away after this summer, and so even if we were to look at some of that kind of investment, it's going to be there for the following summers and other times, because this does seem to be an issue that's kind of resonating with people right now.
Any public comment on the phone? Any public comment on the YouTube?
So YouTube, we have a few. Bob Thompson, science-wise, we'd be far better off to hand out masks to everyone. Masks are 100 times more important than hand washing. Read the science, exclamation point. The virus spreads primarily via respiration, not touching people. Hand washing is good, but not going to help stop spread very much. Dana Mulder says, it's good for this summer and good for events in the future. No on hand washing station, yes on liquid hand sanitizer. And then Patty Beck has a thank you from the previous decision on 4th of July fireworks.
Well, what do you think, guys? Hand sanitizer or hand washing stations?
Well, sanitizer sounds like it's the better way to go. Easier to maintain and whatnot, so.
If we can get it.
If you can get it.
Let's find out.
So,
I have public comment.
David?
The expense and stuff, I concur with some of those thoughts, though you're gonna find, I believe, the responsible people will take care of it. They will have their own, they will utilize, they'll wash their hands when they have the opportunity at your restaurant or the public restroom or where have you. Especially with water and soap, you're gonna have a trail, and then you got more wasted paper towel if you're gonna do that. I personally don't use any paper towel anymore. I wash my hands and let it dry, just to reduce the amount of waste that I personally generate. I'll wash my hands and then spritz my face and fix my hair, and I don't need a paper towel. So, but people aren't gonna eliminate that. They're gonna pull out 5 paper towels.
We get your point.
Cross-contaminate.
Yeah. No, but the thing is they pull out 5 paper towels and do this and then throw them in a wad when they could have done it with 1 paper towel.
Right.
So to me, it's just a waste production. Sanitizer, Mike's probably got a point that, a lot of our local people like High Five Brews, I know that they are making sanitizer, and we could probably source that locally to help out other local businesses. I guess personally, my thought is that it would probably become unnecessary, because the people that are gonna use it and would like to have it will do it on their own, because they're gonna take responsibility for their own actions. And the ones that don't use it aren't gonna use it anyway. That's just my thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and look for hand sanitizer stations.
Is everyone good with
I
that?
think that's,
So,
see what we can find. You need a motion?
We will when we go to the next step.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We will move on to the next section of COVID-19 related items. These items, for the most part, I believe, should be reviewed by a planning commission before going to council. As I mentioned, there's opportunity for other boards like the DDA and Harbor Commission to comment on them as well. But many of these require changes to either the zoning code or the city code, or an administrative ordinance on some kind of temporary moratorium or change to the ordinance. We've talked with our city planner, as well as Attorney Jim Rayner, as well as our zoning administrator Jeff Grimm, and we've all had a good hour and a half Zoom meeting on this and all these different topics, as well as some other ones. And we do have our opinions, but I think I just want to bring them to council's attention, and council can decide if it's worth pursuing, if these items are worth pursuing. So we know if you guys are going to approve it or not. But the first one is outdoor seating.
Just a quick question. Have we received any specific requests or plans for any of these?
We have not received specific plans. We have received specific requests for all of these. We've gotten requests from businesses from all of these things, but we haven't had any plans presented to us, just questions and.
Just questions, but
Yeah.
no one has said, I want to do this, and this is how I'm gonna do it, and I
Yeah.
want to move forward. Okay.
There's no been specific plans, but there have been conversations, yeah.
Oh, sure, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The first one is outdoor seating expansion. There's been a request as to whether restaurants can expand this outdoor seating area to the sidewalk space adjacent to neighboring businesses. This would allow restaurants to make up for business that would be lost due to COVID-19 capacity restrictions. Our current ordinance, section 40.1135B, allows a restaurant to locate outdoor seating in the sidewalk space adjacent to its storefront, but not adjacent to neighboring storefronts. So some questions to consider if we were to allow this. Would this be a temporary change? What kind of permission from the neighboring businesses would they need? How much seating would we allow? What about non-restaurant stores that want to use sidewalk space to display goods in order to comply with their COVID-19 capacity requirements? And what kind of pedestrian issues could this cause, if it could cause pedestrian issues? Again, I believe this is one of those ones that should go to Planning Commission for a review by our planning consultant and for a public hearing. But I guess I want to get council's feeling before we go in to know, if this is something that we should pursue.
You want to start, or do you want me?
We already know what you want. I guess I'll start. I think instead of expanding out into the sidewalk, I'd prefer to see possibly some street closures or making some common areas that restaurants could share, or people could gather outside. But I think trying to expand sidewalks, if you give it to the restaurants, you gotta give it to the retails. Pretty soon, you're not gonna have any sidewalks left.
No, we're gonna go from 10 foot to 3 feet.
Right. I mean, we have sidewalks.
Main Street 17 feet, it's huge. It's twice that more people.
Still. To keep the 6-foot social distancing between the people eating in the cage and walking by. It's gonna be a challenge. And I think if one person gets it, everyone's gonna want it. And I think it'd be more beneficial to the town to have a common area that everyone could use. Just my opinion.
You want input on each individual item, whether it should go in front of the planning commission?
Well, I think we're going to take it to the Planning Commission, but I guess based on our conversation here, if it's not going to go anywhere, then I think if it's not, because for example, this one, outdoor seating expansion, that'd be a change to the city code. So it would obviously need council approval and does not need Planning Commission approval, but the Planning Commission was involved in crafting this ordinance. So it'd be helpful to know going into these meetings if the council wants to hear more before they make a decision, or if it's going to be an absolute no. I think that's really.
You don't want planning commission to waste their time.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I think we should contact MDOT and see if we can take a parking spot, like they do in all the rest of the cities, where they allow to go. That way we're keeping our sidewalk. It'll be easy to get it through the Michigan Liquor Control Commission to bump it over, since they're actually giving those licenses away for free right now. For that reason, wouldn't be able to open it up for more than what your capacity already is. So, for instance, if Matt wants to do it and he lost 6 tables, he can only open it up to 6 tables. Me 3, turkeys 3, whatever it is. That's how it would be. Because you can't just open it up and just get a bigger amount of people seated out there now. So it would have to definitely be regulated that way.
Temporary.
It would just be for the summer.
Temporary.
Yeah.
Chief Knight, now that you're back, Councilmember DeChurch has brought up the point of potentially contacting MDOT if we want to close off a parking space on M119 to be able to use that for some sort of outdoor seating. What's your thoughts on the process for that? And what the pros and cons of that from a police and safety aspect.
I can reach out to my contact in the TFC in Gaylord just to see, I can probably get an answer in the next couple of days as far as what procedure we would have to do in order to enact that. That's what I would have to do in order to find out.
Some of the towns use concrete borders, you know what I mean, go for one here, one here, one here, so there's no cones. You'd have to decide on what color you want it, you know, I mean, like, that's for safety reasons, you know, I mean, that's why I do it. There's one town I saw that did that, and what they did is they put a small semi-permanent strip, you know, I mean, to slow people down in mid-town, basically. You know what I mean, so they hit a big speed bump.
I don't see MDOT allowing us to put a speed bump on them on.
Right, I'm just saying that this is what I saw, so I don't know that, I can't be judged by that.
So I hear three different issues, if I'm understanding this right. There's three different possibilities I'm hearing from this one topic. One is, do we expand to allow outdoor seating to expand to neighboring businesses? Two is, do we close off a street or some other common area for, particularly for diners to have a common eating area? And I think we kind of talked about this we'll get into this later about the sales at Marina Park potentially for having picnic tables there. And the third issue is, do we close off a parking spot? Or we do if it's allowable by MDOT or for dining. So I think we have three different issues, and is it worth exploring all three? Do you want us to explore all three of these and have the planning commission look at all three? Or is there one, two, or none that you want to explore?
I'm open to options, I guess, so I would say let the planning commission look it over and come up with something.
I think brainstorming
If it's-
with the planning commission is. the right
If it's
thing
a
to do.
temporary thing, if we were to get into a permanent thing, I think it'd be a much deeper discussion, but given the times that we're in right now, right?
I don't think anybody wants it, I don't think it would look good if we just did it solid that way, but I think in these times, I think, you know, a lot of towns are making they're changing things for the summer.
Oh, I agree, that's why,
That's what
I
they're
mean,
doing, you know what I mean?
I think I'm open to some.
I wouldn't want to have that, like, I don't want that past the summer. You know?
But in order to make things
I would
work,
want
I
three.
would say, yeah,
After this is over.
let's take that one.
My concern would be is, I think it might be later, it's curbside and taking parking spots. If we do both, just food for thought, that we're eliminating, then I don't know if curbside is further down here or not.
It is.
But just think about, if we start doing that and curbside, we're leaving very few spots for people to park.
Well, I'd eliminate the
We have to make that a
curbside.
note for planning commission.
Yep, and that's something that I think with all of these,
Yeah.
if we look at them all individually, if we look at each of these individually, it might not be such a big impact on pedestrian traffic and issues. But if all in aggregate, if we make all of these changes, we could have a fundamental change for the summer. So,
That's where my point was, just
Good point.
as group effort.
yeah,
Thank you.
yes, Margaret.
I'd like to just add some input from the survey. I've gotten well over 300 responses, and all of these options were on the survey. And overwhelmingly, 80% of the people that responded said that they felt more comfortable eating outside through the summer.
Right.
So I do think it's something we need to look at. Now, on the same thing, they were split about 50-50 as far as taking up parking spots and, you know, losing parking spots for retail or other, you know, just for shopping purposes. So I think it's worth exploring all of the options, but definitely the public wants to be eating outside.
Any public comments?
Any public comment on the phone? Anyone there? Nope.
We do have several comments on YouTube. Dana Mulder, would it be strange to close only one spot in a block, only one restaurant in a block? Michael Behrman, I am sorry, but I missed the beginning of this meeting. Was there a decision about the parade? The school district sponsors the art fair. What about that? Parade is canceled. Fireworks are canceled, Michael. Art fair, I don't think we've,
Can't do that either.
yeah, it's too late. Yeah. Jeannie Kalinsky, shouldn't the restaurateurs rescue themselves? Jeff James, every year we talk about not enough parking and now you want to use parking spaces for tables in the street. That makes no sense. Dana, can we give up parking when carry out may be popular? Brian Bedini, anything we can do to help our restaurants? A few parking spots this summer will not be missed. Dana, start with a dine-in, the parks promotion.
What is rescue?
Recuse, she meant recuse, I said rescue. Sorry. So basically, she said, should you recuse yourself from making this decision? I was talking about it, I was thinking, should you rescue yourself from your own financial woes?
Same.
Same.
Good.
Thanks, Jeannie, for the clarification.
Sorry, Josh Baker here. Sorry, I'm late. I would agree with Brian. Anything, I think outdoor seating would be fantastic. And echoing Margot's comments on the public response, over 300 is a crazy high response. And I think it'd be a great addition to have outdoor seating.
Thank you, Josh.
I just have a comment, if possible, as
Yeah.
being a parks person. I think if we could do it in a park, that'd be great. I think that's a more desirable seating area. That, and people would understand if we block off an area for outdoor seating and maybe not do it on the parking spots. If that option's there, I think people would more likely want to do that because, see the bay, see the water, not be that close to traffic.
What about cocktails?
Cocktails, kind of be
Oh,
bring your own.
that's adventure, isn't it?
As he was speaking, I was thinking of that, people, you have carry out or takeout,
Right.
but it's alcoholic beverages. And council has sort of the say on that. And I'm not saying for people to take a 12-pack of beer and go down and have their dinner, but I'm also saying that we could compromise maybe. And, maybe if we have designated area down there, it's the city ordinance prohibits alcohol consumption in public, that maybe we could allow that in a designated area so that people wanted to get like a to-go beverage. I'm just throwing it out there, that they could go to a designated area, eat their dinner and drink a beverage from one of your restaurants.
And that would be the location for the hand sanitizer.
I'm thinking like, well, the
Or the
marina,
hand washing stick, after you get done.
marina park.
Eat your ribs in the park.
Instead
They
of
closed in
the
the
green
area
space,
where
you
you
got guys on boats that are drinking beer anyway.
I don't see those two as mutually exclusive, and I think a discussion at the planning commission is definitely warranted.
So just have a planning commission and potentially any other boards, the DDA, discuss this at their next meeting before we come back to council.
Yeah.
So we can't wait too long. Sorry.
No, I agree, but we've got a planning commission coming up.
Right.
We can act pretty quickly right after that.
Yes, you can call a special
Did
meeting.
your survey, again, we don't have specific requests or plans in front of us. It would be really helpful if the businesses downtown were prompted to say, if I could do it, this is what I would do. And it would give the planning commission something concrete to chew on, rather than, well, how about parking spaces? I don't know if I were on the planning commission where I would take that. They'll do the same thing we are. It's kind of like, well, it kind of sounds like a good idea.
Well, really what we're gonna have to do is put the burden on our staff, a planning consultant or zoning administrator, myself, and Chief Knight here and Lucas, the DPW director, to kind of figure it all out on ourselves, which is fine. We can do that if council wants. But, normally our normal process for, applications for site plan is having someone give us information. This is what we want to do.
That's my point.
But if we plan on doing this for everyone as a amending an ordinance or putting out an administrative ordinance or a temporary moratorium on enforcing certain ordinances, then council can direct staff, all right, let's figure this out. So, either way, if it was one business owner only, then I would say, sure, let them submit a plan. But if we want this to apply to everyone equally, then, staff would just have to.
Given our state.
Sure, but it would be helpful
It
in
would be
that
helpful.
discussion to find out what people would like to do.
It would be-
Those that would actually go and implement. So,
So Bob's comment right there, he wants to know what's going on with liquor right now. We're
What
actually
is the
working on
status of to-go cocktails or at least beer in town? Can we be flexible on
that.
that?
So we're actually meeting at that in the restaurant association right now about that, trying to get that passed. To be able to sell cocktails out the door to go drink. To go home with, not in the park. So if you want to come in and get a margarita, you get a margarita to go.
Mhm.
That's being washed through right now.
We have another comment by Jeannie Kolinsky. Why on earth are the owners of restaurants suggesting to take public property for their dining? Seems sketchy.
Well, I think it's more to-go orders.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
the restaurant owners aren't gonna be serving
Yeah, that's
people
serving
down
people
in Marina
product.
District.
Rushing out to
It's
serve
for carry
down at
out.
the harbor isn't gonna work.
It's not for carryout people.
This is for carryout,
we
you know, having a place to go.
Right.
But I mean, that's my assumption anyway,
Mhm.
so.
Can you go back to the original document? So outdoor seating expansion, should we send that to the planning commission?
I believe we should.
Okay. On the side, or outdoor seating on the sidewalk.
Yes. Every other resort town I go to,
In my office.
you know, pick a resort town, pick Europe. It happens all the time, and especially if we're just talking about the summer.
Okay, now, outdoor seating on the sidewalk, the way the ordinance is written, you can do it in front of your business. Should we?
If you have enough room.
If you have enough room where it fits all the stuff. Do we want them to be able to sprawl?
If I had a business and I wanted to be able to sprawl, I'd go and talk to my neighbors first
Right.
and find out if they were amenable.
Well, we need to get some specific stuff we can send to the planning commission for them to think about, so that.
So neighbors are working together and opening up area for that, as long as you don't exceed your normal capacity.
So to the planning, it could be, yes, you can do it from yours. and if you
Right,
wanna
so
go-
Josh is on the phone right now. So if I said to Josh, you know, can I expand 6 feet in front of your store, hold an insurance, you know, so that you're protected? And, you know, just move the gate over a little bit for the summer. And if he said, yeah, that would be awesome, then as long as the city lets you do it, then we're done, we're moving. And if Josh is like, no, well, then it's no. It doesn't matter for me anyway.
That was my point. If we allow it, then it's up to them to negotiate how far you can go.
To answer your question, yes. We should go to planning commission.
Right,
Yes.
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 okay, all right. So
Yes.
let's look into, or have planning commission look into expanding sidewalk dining, expanded sidewalk dining. Okay.
Yeah.
You go back. to
So now we're out in the street.
Because there's more stuff.
2 more public comments. Nikki Law, I agree with Matt that closing a street or 2 would be a good idea to help the restaurants. Many cities are doing this. Traverse City closed Main Street. Dana Mulder, do you want the DDA to put together for the planning commission to respond? We meet this week. And I would say, just personally, any help from any board or commission or private or public entity would help staff get ready in such a short amount of time.
They haven't closed Main Street, by the way. They're still operating on that.
I would think the DDA might want to focus on the parks or closing a street and let the planning commission focus on expanding sidewalk dining.
Right, that makes sense.
That would be my balance on it.
I'm not a fan of closing streets,
No.
but everything else.
You could lose
I'm a
8
fan
to
of.
10 parking spots, and they're complaining about 1.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? It's kind of a, plus our streets are on a thing like this, you know, it's gonna be pretty hard to dine at that angle.
Okay, so I think we have our marching order. I don't think we need a vote from council, but Cece, do you have any other comments?
No, I'm just listening. But I don't think that the dining should go into the street.
Okay,
Right. Yeah, I think that'd be a push to get that through MDOT.
Oh, I don't think MDOT would allow it.
Yeah.
no.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
So the next one is for the planning commission as well, is the use of private parking spots as temporary retail space locations. This was another suggestion by a business owner, whether they can temporarily use their private parking spaces to display or sell their goods, obviously to help them meet capacity requirements. However, it'll also force people to park in public spaces because we're taking away their private parking from that individual or that business. So would it contribute to a parking situation if we're allowing this as well as allowing closing out parking spots, et cetera? Curbside pickup. So it's another thing the planning commission can consider, but if the council is a strong no, then there'd be no point for the planning commission to consider it.
I'm not a fan of that.
I'm not a fan of the private parking spots for retail. I don't know how that would even work.
The idea, I guess, what I heard was to set up some of the displays in their parking spots so people can look at the items outside, so there's not congestion inside their own building. But, I mean,
Basically, sidewalk sales all summer long.
well, it'd be at their private parking, so a lot of businesses have, downtown,
They
have
have
their
a back
parking
lot of
spots
their own.
behind them,
So they put in their own parking spot in their own back lot.
in their own back
I don't
lot.
see a problem with that. I see a problem with taking up the spot out, you know, you know what I'm saying?
Well, if they got an alley space, I guess I can see that being something. Like,
Like,
like Main Street or not even Main Road. that-
Well, I'll give you an example, like Brian and John, if they want to use their parking spot behind that building, that's not to the public of parking, why would
Correct.
they set up back there? If they have that.
Yeah.
That could do the same behind his, you know, I mean.
I don't know that.
So the planning commission,
So
would-
yeah, I agree with you there.
the planning commission just would be looking at whether, the private spots that are be taken away temporarily are gonna cause an issue potentially with now those people that would be parking there have to park elsewhere, so. But if you guys want the planning commission to review this,
Well, it doesn't matter because business owners never use their parking spots. They always park out on the street.
Anyway.
Ouch!
I was shopping.
All right.
Margo,
Oh, I
you
was
say
just-
something?
I was just gonna kind of clarify on that. The requests that I've gotten are from a couple businesses of whether they could set up, say, a tent in their parking spot for some and coordinate off with a tent with some retail underneath it. But like both places that I've spoken with have behind their store
Right.
or off the side.
And they only want to do it on the weekends, they don't want to do it all week long, so it's just every now and then.
I don't see a problem.
So,
No, it's behind them.
yes to private parking or no to private parking?
Yes.
Well, again, it's one that's tough to say generically, but if it's behind, it's not gonna be on the street, because that's public parking, so I don't see a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not gonna be for everybody, so.
And it's the summer.
public comments? I don't see any.
Any comments on the phone?
Yeah,
Oh.
this is John from W Ware, and I suggest you get a comment from Mr. Grimm, because he would tell you that it's not allowed because the designated parking spaces behind the building were put there because of the master plan of those buildings, and they cannot be reverted or set aside for public displays.
Yes, you're right, but this would just be a temporary thing for the next 2 months, 3 months. It would be just I don't know what it would be.
It'd be an administrative ordinance like we did with the short-term rentals to say, make just an amendment.
It would be allowed for a specific period of time.
So there's correct, John Mange is correct, it's not allowed right now, so council will decide if they want to temporarily allow it.
Well, I think that's on the planning commission next month.
Yep.
So, all right, what's next?
Next is continuance of curbside pickup parking. We all know what's going on there. Do we want to continue to use reserved space for curbside pickup if the restaurants are now open, albeit they're open at 50% capacity? And do we also, if we continue allowing that, do we allow it for other businesses that are at certain percent capacity that want to pick up, whether it's a book at the bookstore or some gear at the outfitter? These are, eventually, in theory, you could see a lot of parking spots being used up all along Main Street and State Street for curbside pickup. But right now, we just have them reserved for restaurants. And I don't know, Chief Knight, if you want to comment on that, about the curbside pickup. I know you got some requests from businesses for that.
I received requests from the businesses and then a couple of the retail stores about it. And I've accommodated those requests. In the meantime, I pulled some of the signs because of the fact that the retail is now open. And so that's where I stand. I think probably currently we have 6 spots downtown that are allocated for curbside, 2 being behind Cowbells and Gurney's. So that's sort of your decision, accompanied with the DDA.
And I think, Margo, that question was on the survey as well, about curbside.
And it is favorable at this point, both for retail and for the restaurant curbside pickup.
Logistic wise, like as we go into summer with parking, I'm concerned about how we're gonna enforce it. If we're gonna make it permanent, we need to have an ordinance.
I think I have a plan for you, because they're hard, right, because you're watching people try to park, on Main Street is a joke. So if I have one out in front of my place and they're trying to park, it's a mess. So why don't we just designate the loading zone
Right.
that we have around with the yellow? They're easy to get in and easy to get out, get all the parking spaces back. You know, our people can walk down the block with food.
Dude, there's really, I'm, without being there, I know there's a loading zone in front of W-Ware.
Yep.
Most of the other yellow cross are actually, they're not loading zones, they're people's driveways. So I'm just throwing it out, like I know down by, the Yummies, those two spots down there, they're not loading zones. They're the only other loading zone I can think of that's downtown. There might be one by the front of the fire hydrant, in front of the, Sophie's.
Johans has one.
There you go. Hans.
Yeah, Johans has one.
And the Lyric and
And
the
the Lyric.
drop-off zone.
And then, yes. So,
So you have 3 on Main Street.
Johans,
That's enough.
I'm good with that. I'm just saying, I don't want to designate the ones for the 2 driveways as loading, as, curbside, because I know what's gonna happen there.
All right. Well,
So we have Johans, we have the one in front of W-Ware, and then the Lyric,
and the Lyric,
and the Lyric.
which may or may not open this summer.
Correct. And then we still have one down by the Bar Harbor.
Yeah, you got the one by
Yeah.
Bar Harbor. So
For
I think
like-
we're all set there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Scratch the
Yeah.
side good.
CC, you like it?
I think it makes sense to do that, yes.
So-
Scratch.
So the DDA would basically put out that if, to designate those areas as if you were gonna do curbside, these are where you have need to tell your clientele to come and pick up their goods.
Right.
I just have one other thought on that, is I would like to keep, if possible, I'd like to pull our signs, like the ones that we have, but the one sign that I think would be important to keep would be behind cowbells, because there's a lot of elderly people that come and pick up prescriptions, and there's no designated area back there necessarily. I'd hate to have somebody have to pull up in front of Leary, or even down across from W-Ware. I think that would be a crucial one to keep.
That's a great point. Good call.
Good call.
So,
Comments on YouTube?
No.
I mean, on the phone.
Yeah. Any comments on the phone?
Yeah, this is W-Ware, and I don't feel comfortable having a transfer station out in front of my storefront. Plus, I'd like to bring it to the attention of this council that Mike Nanturkis and his wife Tana Nanturkis own paper station, and they don't have accommodations to hold their garbage and trash. So what they do, they cart their garbage and trash down the sidewalk, spewing entrails of sewage down the sidewalk into behind ivies and collect their trash back there. I don't think this is appropriate use, and I don't think it's prudent use during this time of COVID.
All right, thank you, John.
We do have a couple comments on YouTube. One from Brian Bedini. I think this was referring to the private parking spots. It would be helpful to maintain social distance. Justin Law wants to know where the delivery trucks would park if we're using those loading spaces. Justin said this is where the delivery trucks park for the theater.
This would mainly be after 5 o'clock.
to his point credit, the retail places, I don't see the retail as much curbside as the restaurants, but it is a valid point. And the fact that our UPS guys use it all day long.
Yeah.
Do you want to send it to the planning commission for?
I just think we're gonna have to give and take a little bit, because it's just weird times. I think it's just the way it is. I don't think there's no perfect answer.
I think
the
that,
best of what we got in this one.
right,
What's the side street with W-Ware? Right.
The one way?
Spring Street. So what if we took a couple parking spots by the bank and then by the fudge shop?
We tried to do you remember that? We tried to actually do that, where that's where the trucks would all pull on the side street instead of out on Main, and then open up all the ones
Well,
on Main.
leave Main alone, but just put that curbside pickup on either side of the street.
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
And that way
So
the trucks
it's
can
easy
still
in, easy out
for
right off the
everybody,
corner.
because
Just
Pebbles
eliminate,
does a lot too.
you know what I'm saying? You still have each end of town. But in the center of town, you got, say, 2 parking spots left and right of Main Street.
Yeah, that'd be good.
What do you think about that, Kyle?
I don't have no problem.
but it's still leave the loading dock in front of WR for everybody to come, service.
For the truck
Right,
drivers.
exactly.
For the truck drivers.
Yeah, that worked too.
It's, the nice thing about both of those is it's easy in and easy out.
I know what you're saying.
You know,
I watch people parallel park to get a curbside, some
It's
people
tough.
struggle with that.
Plus they'll give gurneys more room, turkeys people can run it across the street. The stores with clothing, it's good, smart.
The turkeys, like, Turkey wanted this 2 years ago prior to COVID.
Oh, I know.
And I guess he can go across the street, I'm gonna do that, all right. But it is prohibiting parking because if he was to use a lyric, for example, their loading area as his curbside, it could potentially cause problems there.
The lyrics not open for a while. It's the last thing that's getting open.
Right.
So I guess, as far as the lyric goes, we can police that,
Yeah.
so to speak. If it becomes an issue, then maybe we gotta change it.
So the last public comment, and I encourage all public comments
that
going
chair.
forward to stay on the topic that we're talking about. I've never seen waste from Paper Station on our sidewalk.
Right.
Let's keep focused.
So I will, just direction from council, I'll use the 2 parking spots, the first one in the north side and south side of Spring Street as curbside. We'll move all our signs, we'll keep one behind Gertie's, we'll do those 2. We'll pull the rest of them.
I think that'll work.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, awesome.
Give it a try, see how it goes.
Come back.
Perfect.
Thank you. Next topic, sandwich board signs. This may or may not be relevant because the Lyric is the one who requested this one, but they want to have sandwich board signs in order to help direct advanced ticket holders on the sidewalk to enter one door without accidentally waiting in line for the box office. We can't just permit a sandwich board sign. It's against our sign regulations for one business, so we have to allow it for all if we allowed it. So is that a change that council wants to look into, is temporarily allowing sandwich board signs on the sidewalk? You have one issue of it could help the businesses out. Second issue, it could cause more pedestrian clutter with having to avoid signs that are just in the middle of the sidewalk. So or we could just go to planning commission for a review, which we're going to do anyway.
Do
So
we have to open it up to everybody? Can't we just let the lyric just have that because of the mass of people?
no,
Can't do it
that's
that way?
not the way the zoning works. Yeah, you have to let signs for everyone or for no one. Right, Jeff?
Yeah, and I think another answer could be that there might be a better way for the lyric than a sandwich board sign. If their issue is truly directing their traffic, then maybe we could do something for them in another form, like maybe some temporary rope barriers, to weave the traffic through for them, implement something like that. When, signage is something that there's Court of Appeals and Supreme Court decisions on that, how we do things. So we've got to be careful with signage, and opening that up becomes a big issue, I think.
Well, the solution specific to what they need to do makes sense to me, not just opening it up to sandwich boards. There is potential there for it to get out of hand.
Yeah.
But we have already received requests for other businesses for, if we expand from just sandwich boards to freestanding signs in general. For instance, we have another business that would like to put up kind of a sign flag in front of their business. So it's already expanding. When we talk about freestanding signs, it quickly expands where one person does it, whether they get approval or not, and then 2 other businesses say, oh, well, he's doing it, so then everybody starts to. So I do think it's something that we should be cautious on how we proceed with.
And to go off of that, because it ties in, the request we got for that was from Harbor Ice Cream. They would like to potentially, because their building is tucked away and hard for many people to see their sign, they're requesting to install an ice cream flag to help draw customers to their business. And they are also requesting additional seating on the outside, if it can be granted. So we got that second request, like Mr. Grimm said, about potential for a different type of sign, a flag. So, I think my personal recommendation is let's have a planning review about the impacts of positive and negatives of having these signs. We have these sign ordinances for a reason, whether it's for, safety, for aesthetics, for whatever it is, clutter, they're there for a reason. So let's have a thorough review of it.
Yeah.
But all these decisions are based on a certain amount of time and then they're done anyway, right? So they can't carry. So if you do make the change, Jeff, it can go on and say this is done as of September and then we're not revisiting this again. Can it be done that way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So
So
again, weird times, you know.
public comments on YouTube are a great idea from Jeff James, theater sign in parentheses. I don't know if there are any on the phone.
Anybody on the phone for public comment?
All right, so that'll go to Plan Commission. Summer construction, city code says that except for delivery of construction materials, no obstruction of any street shall be permitted during the period from June 15th to Labor Day, which is our summer season. Question is, should we allow and under what circumstances for exceptions? For example, there was a 2-month moratorium on construction for ongoing projects, and that affects some projects like the Mossbrook project on the Gardner Street between Main and Bay. And their construction would be further delayed, and the sidewalk there would be further blocked for X amount of days, weeks, or months, because if we have that temporary close. So do we want to allow construction to go ahead to be able to obstruct the sidewalks? We had some ideas at staff was let's obstruct them, allow obstruction for those that have already been in the construction process or they already pulled out permits, but not for new requests. That could be one solution. Obviously, we get the Planning Commission's input as well onto that as well. But
that was gonna be my comment. I'd say anything that's currently in the works, we allow them to get done in a timely fashion,
So
but
guys are all bottlenecked anyway. We gotta get it done on this new one.
right.
For sure.
All right, so we'll go to Plan Commission, knowing that you guys are pretty favorable with that. I don't see any comments on YouTube.
Comments on the phone?
Nope. All right, finally, the one we've been waiting for. No. Sales at Marina Park. This is shade sales. At last council meeting, council agreed to look into us using sales at Marina Park to connect a shade over the picnic tables that we are purchasing for the park. This was preferred over umbrellas at the last meeting. Because this involves a change to our park that could temporarily affect neighbors and surrounding property owners, the Planning Commission should definitely consider the precise location, height, and coverage of the sails. At that, between now and then, I strongly also encourage that the DDA look at it, because this is in the DDA district, as well as the Harbor Commission, because it affects the waterfront. So I know Denny has provided, this afternoon, I sent to council some images and potential locations for the Marina Park table and sail location. So let me get the potential locations that he's looking at here up on screen. So you can see on the screen right now, these are the potential different layouts. One would be parallel basically with Bay Street. These are 60 feet long by 20 feet wide and 10 feet high, right?
That's correct.
And so we got one parallel with Bay Street and then two different options for perpendicular to Bay Street. And I don't know, Denny, if you want to expand on.
Sure, I don't, we're running out of time, I'll do it real quick. Based on our last meeting, we were being proactive and we're trying to look for some outside seating to offset the 50% reduction in some of our restaurants. We liked the sails because they had a good look, they looked natural to our area. It would create an atmosphere. They're gonna be temporary, also reusable, so if you like them, we can use them at another location, and they'd have some possibility for lighting. So I met at the location with Margot, Lucas, and Harbor Master Mike, and we looked at some possible places we would put the sails. We put some cones out to actually show like what it would look like. We're talking about 20 by 20 sails, so if they're facing each other like those are now, we're looking at a space would be about 60 foot long and 20 foot wide. We do have some challenges here. Probably the biggest challenge is to make it work. They'll be about 10 foot high, and that's going to obstruct some of the view. So therefore, we wanted to get you guys back into to see if that's an issue or not. If you look at option 1, in the corner there's already a 10 foot or 8 foot tall hedge and a transformer there. So we kind of liked option A the best because part of it was already obstructed. Lucas brought up some good points about how that area has irrigation lines all through it. And he suggested, my plan was to put, was gonna cement the post in with tubes to make sure it was secure and everything. Lucas had an idea that there's anchors you can use that you can screw into the ground and then attach a 4x4 to it.
Sure.
That would be a lot less invasive to the area and also, again, make it just a temporary structure just to get us through this time. It may or may not be a zoning issue.
Well, we just have the, we do have community zoning for our community properties and just making sure that it complies with the zoning that we've set forth for ourselves in these areas. And the planning commission could look at that for review.
It sounds like they're really busy anyway, so we could probably skip down.
I like the layout so much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think your layout there with any of your options is good because it still allows for gathering.
Yeah, sure. We didn't want to take away the open area there. Just trying to
So
create
festivals and everything else can still have the space and whatnot, so
It will obstruct the view.
The view of what?
The view of the back from certain locations.
The view of the boats parked in the bay.
And the cost would be about $1,400 for the whole project.
So we're doing all three or just one?
Just one.
Just one.
Well, valid question.
What? Could you go back to the map?
Yes, I can.
Actually shrink it,
Shrink it.
shrink it,
Yes. Can
so
shrink
we
it.
see the bigger picture. Smaller picture. Okay, back in the past, we've always considered the view coming down Spring Street.
Right.
But then again, we're gonna move the harbor master's office.
That's about where the harbor master building will be.
Yeah,
Well,
so I guess
it's
that's not
proposed.
an issue.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I noticed, because we had discussed that in the past, people wanting to see the water coming down Spring Street. If the harbor master's office ever moves there, that'll block that view. Exactly, all right. And that is kind of a dead spot in the park.
Well, it'll be a good trial.
Right.
Put it by that transformer,
Right.
because your boating communities probably gonna use it for shade
Yeah,
and
they've
whatnot.
got their grill there.
Yep.
They're strong too. I mean, when they batten those things down, they can take a lot of views.
Option A or B, either one I think is good.
Mayor, if you want to open it up to, we have some comments on YouTube, so.
Any comments on the telephone?
So on YouTube, we have a few comments by Jeannie Kolinsky. Good luck with the sales when the wind kicks up. Bob Thompson, haven't you let the view get blocked enough already? Jeannie Kolinsky, emojis with facepalm, I think. That's what that is. Dana Mulder, it would be very helpful to 3D model it when you could see the options from different places. Bob Thompson, what is supporting the sales? Is someone putting them up and making them down or taking them down? Or are they permanent? The structure alone. Jeannie Kolinsky, this just seems really half-baked. So before I pass it to Denny, right now this is just conceptual. The whole point is to bring this to the Planning Commission and the DDA with options to sketch out and really get the details figured out and then come back to the City Council after the Planning Commission gives its review. So it seems half-baked right now, but it won't be half-baked by the time it gets back to council and the next City Council meeting. As far as blocking the views, that is why we're going to be holding a public hearing at the Planning Commission meeting so people can have an opportunity to share their views with the Planning Commission. And I don't know about the 3D model. That might be a lot to get in, but I'll pass that out to Denny.
The only thing I just want to reiterate is they are temporary structures to get us through this period, like you had said. It makes a lot more sense to have outdoor seating, to spread people out. It seems
Well,
like
what if it isn't? What if it turns out to be we like them and we want to keep them?
then
That's an option too.
Exactly.
we'll
So,
revisit that at that time.
exactly. So.
Well done.
So good to have the council, I'm sorry, the planning commission.
So input to the planning commission, we kind of all agree that option A.
Option A or B.
That makes, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to see.
No.
Too close to the parking lot. Blocks the people.
Exactly.
Dana Mulder says, cool idea to trial to see if we want it in a master plan. All right, so
It's a great.
hearing no other
relatively
comments, we can move
inexpensive
on.
experiment.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the phone about any of this?
CC?
CC?
I'm listening and I agree with A or B, and I like A better than B.
Me too.
Okay.
And the public, for those, because we don't have this up on the screen, they'll have an opportunity to view these concept plans at the planning commission meeting. So, and at the website, we'll post it on the
It'll be part
website.
of the package for the planning commission.
It'll be part of the package for the planning commission. We just got these today. We received them today at 3 PM, so.
Perfect.
One last thing, this is not COVID related, but I'm gonna put it there. It's a change that was requested by our Parks Director, is the hedges at City Beach. And we're gonna talk about this at the Planning Commission as well. But right now, we have these hedges that block the playground area at City Beach. We don't know why these hedges were put in. We have theories about why. We haven't found any zoning or planning commission or council decision for installing them.
Privacy.
That's what we suspect, but there's also the diagonal parking there. And we also thought maybe it could be because we don't want the kids running into the parking lot, because this is where the kids play.
That's
So
what I thought about. They can't run right out in the street.
we've had issues though with kids hiding here, drinking, smoking, doing other things.
It's actually, I think being secluded is actually working against us at this point. High water is also an issue because the water's up so high, making that area really small, and it's not gonna go down anytime soon. And there's a lot of bugs in there, it collects trash.
I seen CC down there.
It's, can you show the other pictures real quick?
Yeah, so our staff we've talked about with all the staff and they pretty much agree that.
Notice the nice building there. A lot of people eat lunch there. They come at lunchtime and they'll park there, and when the beachcombers are there, there's no spot for them, so they park over on that side, but they can't see the water. It'd just be a simple, we would remove one barrier and put in a simple white picket fence there, which also is used all around our community, which will allow a barrier between the road for kids and also open up the view.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And look 100 times better.
And across the street is the beach house it's not like somebody's residence across the street. It's the beach house for the Little Harbor Club.
Yeah.
So it's not somebody's personal property that is gonna be opened up.
That would be nice.
All right, so that'll go to the planning commission, and normally this doesn't need any council, because this is a kind of staff decision what to put there, but because we don't know why the hedges were there, we want to make sure that there's no public outcry for picking, exchanging.
Yeah.
We think at least to the mid-80s. Yeah.
Like I used to play in way back when. That's what's actually sitting behind the shrubs, if you want to.
Well, those are 40 arms that I found the other day.
One public comment on YouTube says, from George Pete, why can't we have a lower shrub? And that's,
They'll become big shrubs.
yep, and that's something we could talk about, or hedge, at the planning commission public hearing. Is there any other public comments on the phone?
Any public comments on the phone?
And I would ask, before we go on, any public comments related to COVID-19 at all, furthermore.
Are there any public comments about COVID-19 on the phone?
No.
Okay.
Just
And
comment regarding the hedge.
Keep it brief, David.
Yeah, I would just concur that it should, that you could easily do it with some kind of foliage to keep the green belt happening that's lower, still have the view and still have a barrier without somebody being able to hide here. Probably a good solution.
okay.
One more quote, just Michael Bierman had texted me, and I know he commented, but the school's in charge of the art fair, and I know he canceled. I know it's like sort of a given, but it probably would be recommended if the council would make the decision to say no art fair. Because just for your, that's your decision. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying I think you need to make a decision on that.
I thought we did already.
So did I.
You did the fireworks and a parade.
Did we do a roll call on it, make it official?
Well, let's have a motion just to cancel the art fair.
You made a motion, I'll second it.
Okay. John Leo.
Yes.
Matt Guerra.
Yes.
Mike Derkis.
Yep.
John Cox.
Yes.
CC Johnston.
Yes.
Motion carried to cancel the art fair.
Still awake after 9 o'clock.
Okay, so we'll move on to item B, LTBB lawsuit update. Attorney Jim Raymer is on the phone to give I hope he's still on the phone. It's to give an update on the lawsuit. Jim, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'll try to make this brief. I know everybody's maybe a little burned out, but as you know, the judge in the district court issued an opinion last August granting to the city, the state, and the townships summary judgment that the tribe did not have a reservation in and around Harbor Springs. The tribe appealed that decision to the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, and in February filed its brief. And on May 20th, the townships, the city, and the state filed its reply brief. There's one final bit of briefing to go. That will be the tribe getting to last cut at the question. Their brief is due in the middle of August. So we're expecting shortly after that a 3-judge panel will be seated to hear the appeal, and that oral argument will be scheduled. It's anticipated that oral argument will be held probably in December, and that shortly thereafter, reasonably thereafter, the court will issue a decision on the appeal. And so we're anticipating a decision in the first part of 2021. The court could do a couple of things. It could affirm the decision of the district court. It could remand the case back to the trial court if it finds there are factual issues that need to be developed. There's really no good way to predict what the court will do. However, I think it's noteworthy that the district court judge's decision has received some favorable comment as to its thoroughness and its legal analysis. So given what is involved in this case, it's thought that the Court of Appeals will pay deference to that opinion when deciding the appeal. So we'll keep you posted as matters develop. There's nothing really significant to report. There was one potential major issue that did come up within the last 6 months, which was that the tribe asked the U.S. government to file an amicus brief on behalf of the tribe in the case. You may recall the U.S. government initially took the position that it did not want to be involved in this case, and exactly why that it took that position, we don't know. But this was a new request that was made. The Department of the Interior kind of supported the idea, and the matter went to the Justice Department, and ultimately the Justice Department made the decision it was not going to file an amicus brief on behalf of the tribe. That was a favorable development for the city. So briefing is now substantially complete. We're waiting for oral argument and then a decision, and that should occur within the next 8 or 9 months. I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Not for me.
No, thanks for the update.
Yeah, good update.
Okay, thank you. I did truncate it too.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim. Any comments on
Any
that?
comments on the phone? No.
No comments on YouTube. So before we go to item E, I think we should do the city manager report, so then we can go into closed session. All right, so I'll just move on really quick to the city manager report. Not a whole lot to report. We're still working, the engineer is working on a maintenance and monitoring plan for the tunnel under M119 for the state to consider in order to be able to turn it into a bike path. As I mentioned at last meeting, the state rejected our application for a permit to use it as a bike path after a long, lengthy discussion with the state officials, several of them on the phone. They were pretty hesitant, fairly hesitant, and then this idea popped up to my head to have a maintenance plan where we would probably temporarily close the tunnel for those high-risk months where we expect flooding. We could expect a once-in-a-100-year flood. They seemed open to that as long as we give them some plans to consider. So we're working that avenue next.
Real quick, on the tunnel, where are we at with the repairs and the things going on with that?
Yep, I think they're almost doing that. Lucas could comment on that, but last time I checked, they were gonna get there when the weather was good, so.
What, do they have a plan?
There is a
You know,
plan,
for the
yep.
settling and
Yeah, they
what's
do.
going on there?
Yep.
Okay.
It's all a plan. I'm just not sure exactly when they're coming out. They did the grass first up there. If you saw the hay that's been laid out, they're gonna go back up there, but I don't have the exact
The
thing.
water collecting, in the tunnel and all that stuff, so. We're gonna make that bike path.
Oh, no, that's gonna be fixed.
Okay. Just had to-
Lucas says they're waiting on a concrete mill for the tunnel. So,
They're waiting on a concrete,
mill.
They're gonna go and grind it
they're
up.
gonna grind down the high spot.
Yep. Some other things, City Hall reopens at a public June 8th. Public bathrooms opening date schedule is posted there on the website. Our bathroom hours, I know our Parks Director, Chief Knight, and the Marina Harbor Master, Mike Johnson, had a discussion on this. City Hall, these outside City Hall bathrooms are going to continue to be open 24 hours. Ford Park and Harbor Master will be open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and City Beach bathrooms from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. starting on June 13th.
Victor, just one comment on that. Actually, Ford Park and Harbor Master started June 1st.
Right, but starting June 13th, that's when the official hours for all of them will be. Yeah,
Right.
but no, that's correct. Ford Park has already opened up.
Just a question, has there been any issues with cleaning and all that? Since our last meeting, it was a big topic on how things are gonna be taken care of. Has there been any issues?
The only main issue that I found was from a while ago was when sanitizer bottles were stolen from the Marina Harbor Master building. Yeah, 4 of them, I think, in one day.
Obviously, for the most part, everything's been.
Yeah.
Status quo.
People are using this nonstop, and I have not heard one negative comment.
We have a cleaning crew coming in to clean that, so.
She was just here.
Yep.
Yep.
And then
Looking out the window.
Denny's done a great job of coordinating it and cleaning up and outstanding job.
Okay, awesome. Well, it just was a concern before, so I'm just curious how things were going.
This is regular stats. I don't think I have whole much. Planning Commission, though, did agree to start doing 2 meetings a month. 1 meeting on the first Thursday to talk about master plan, only issues about the master plan, and then the regular meeting, of course. Just there's some meetings I've had there. So that's really all I have for the city manager report. So I guess, Mr. Mayor, if you want to go on to any boards and commissions, if you want to have that discussion now, or.
Yeah, well, we've got 2 candidates now, and I'd like to refer for the planning commission, Mark Rondell and then George Pete. So I haven't talked to either of them personally, so I'm going to talk to them. So we'll go another 2 weeks without a person on the planning commission.
We had a list of people that had said that they were interested in serving. Was there anyone on that list?
Not really. I've pretty much used that list up.
Okay.
All right, so you're going to reach out to the others, and then next council meeting,
Next council meeting,
make a decision.
I'll have a nominee for the planning commission.
We just have one public comment about the bathrooms from Deborah Shaner. With the stay-at-home order rescinded today, do we still think those opening dates are relevant? those opening dates of the bathrooms, I'm assuming she's talking about, were partly based on the COVID-19, but also based on our staff availability to maintain the bathrooms and keep them open and clean. So yes, we're still using the June 13th as the opening date for the City Beach bathroom, but the rest are open right now.
So we have no boards and commissions this week. Any new or old business before we go into closed session?
Not for me.
Cece?
No, no comments.
Perfect. Mr. Raymer, could I have a language on the closed session?
Absolutely. We would need a motion from a council person that the city council meeting closed session under section 8D of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, specifically to consider the purchase or lease of real property up to the time an option to purchase or lease that real property is obtained.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
John Leo,
Yes.
CC Johnston,
Yes.
John Cox,
Yes.
Mike Maturkis,
Yes.
and Matt Bulgara.
Yes.
Motion carried. We're in closed session.
All right, CC, I will give you a call. Public, thank you for participating.
Okay.
We are going to end the live stream,
Victor, I'll be going on Zoom.
and I'll start Zoom for you. Thanks, Jim.